Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the 10th inning with Nick Mattis.
Oh, put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Look at me. I can be center field.
Welcome to the 10th inning. I'm Nick Mattis, and joining me here in the Lethal Weapon 2 studio is David Perkins. Today we're going to talk about the Golden State Warriors. Last week, February 28th, the Golden State Warriors had a major setback when Kevin Durant was injured on a freak play. The Washington Wizards center, Marcin Gadot, boy, that's a tough name right there, swung Zaza Pachulia to the ground, contacting Durant's knee, causing an MCL sprain and a major tibia bruise. Now, Durant's going to be out for 30 days, possibly 6 weeks. A lot of people believe that is a major setback for the Golden State Warriors, but contrary to belief, I believe that setback is going to be a setup for the Golden State Warriors to go on and win their second NBA championship in the last 3 years. And joining me today on my show to talk about the Golden State Warriors is my funk soul brother, my co-host on Overtime with Nick and Bob. We like to refer to him as the P of I, Bob Seymour. Bob, thanks for joining me today.
Always glad to talk sports with my brother.
Well, we got a real special guest, too, that's going to be our third here on this podcast. And I like to refer to him as the GOAT, the greatest athlete of all time in Sonoma County, and it's Jerry Robinson. Jerry graduated from Cardinal Newman in 1975. He played football, basketball, and he ran track. He then went on to attend UCLA, where he is inducted in the Hall of Fame, one of 50 players to make the College Football Hall of Fame at the UCLA Bruins. Jerry went on. He was the number 1 draft pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, played 6 years for the Eagles, and then 7 years with the LA Raiders. And you heard me right, the LA Raiders. Jerry also was able to play in the Super Bowl 15. That was when the Eagles played against the Raiders, and unfortunately, Jerry lost that Super Bowl game, but it was an unbelievable season. And in 1981, Jerry was selected to the Pro Bowl. Jerry, what a career you've had, and this is a great honor to have you join me and the P of I here on my 10th inning podcast.
Hey, Nick, it's great to be part of the P and I. You know what? Now, I guess I'm the newest brother in this equation here, so it's kind of like a reverse Oreo cookie, okay? So,
Hey, Jerry, listen,
yeah.
You've been a Warriors fan, and you played basketball yourself. I mentioned you were a basketball player at Cardinal Newman, and 6'3" center there, Jerry, and a great athlete. I really truly believe you are the greatest athlete that's ever come out of Sonoma County, and obviously your professional career kind of makes that everybody understand why. Okay, you don't go to the NFL. I think you weighed 205, Jerry, when you went to the NFL.
Close, more like 2. I left Cardinal Newman at 208 to go to UCLA as a wide receiver. Then I was converted from a wide receiver at 208 pounds, and then I bulked up to about 212, 215. Then got in the pros, and the most I ever weighed was about 220. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, my brother Bob there, he's 6'4", and he's always been a guy that likes to grind it out in the paint. Okay, we played a lot of ball together. After we got out of high school, we had an adult league, and let me tell you, Bob is a plethora of information, and he's a hard worker. And when we were on the basketball court, Bob was the man that got all the dirty work done for us. Okay, so Bob, listen.
Well, I'm glad he's my brother too.
Well, hey, Bob, listen. Last week, as I mentioned, the Warriors were dealt a real severe blow there. Kevin Durant goes down, and the following game, the Warriors lose to the Chicago Bulls, broke a streak of 146 consecutive games where the Warriors had not lost back-to-back games. And like I mentioned up the podcast, guys, and I truly believe this. contrary to popular belief, I believe the Warriors are now going to go on and win the NBA championship. And you're going to say to me, Nick, what do you mean? Why would you say that? They lost their best player here for 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm going to tell you why. And I want you guys to either tell me I'm crazy or I want you to give me some other reasons that you might agree. And what happens in this situation, and Jerry and Bob, you've both been involved on teams that had long streaks, and that 146-game streak was an NBA record, but that weighs heavy on you. You know, you start getting those streaks and you say, hey, we lost a game, but we haven't lost in back-to-back games, and you start thinking about it, and sure enough, in that game against the Chicago Bulls, the Warriors played horribly. I mean, they were Kevin Curry and Thompson together combined for 3 for 22 on three-point attempts. The team was 6 for 30, and they barely lost the game against a team like the Chicago Bulls, who are not doing that great. I think they're just over 500, but they've proven throughout the season that they can win big games. And that game alone showed me that the Warriors are going to be competitive when Durant comes back. I think that's going to be the puzzle that they need, the piece of the puzzle, and I believe they're going to run the table here and win this championship this year. But here's my question to you, and I'm going to start with you on this, Bob. Can the Warriors go on and win the NBA championship if they're not the number 1 seed in the Western Conference? Because obviously they're going to have to get through and beat San Antonio, and they've got a couple of games coming up with them.
Well, I would say this. I'm not sure that they'll be able to hang on to the number 1 seed. Currently, they're only two. Currently, they're 50 and 11. San Antonio is 47 and 12 or 47 and 13. So we only have a 2-game lead on them. We're currently behind right now to Atlanta. The second give up a back-to-back, interestingly enough, again. So I would say this. I do believe that the Warriors have enough. I'm not going to go out on a limb like you did and say they're going to go and win their second championship in 3 years. I will say this. I do believe that the Warriors have enough to beat San Antonio either at home with the home court advantage or without the home court advantage. I do believe that. San Antonio is a great team. Kawhi Leonard's having an outstanding year. Not only has he increased his scoring, he's increased his scoring efficiency. He's shooting almost 50% from the floor. He's shooting 40% from 3, shooting over 75% from the line. So Kawhi Leonard has made himself a great offensive threat. You throw in Aldridge, you throw in Gasol's back from injury, now, and then you got Patty Mills. And then of course you got the Parker Ginobili connection there too. David Lee's a great complimentary player. San Antonio's a great, and there's also the Popovich. Popovich is kind of like Belichick in terms of he's a great coach, been there many times. But I do believe that the Warriors have enough to beat San Antonio either at home with the home court advantage or without it. I would say that.
Yeah, Bob, you bring up Popovich, and I think there's no doubt he's like the Belichick in the NFL. Popovich is a fantastic coach, and he gets the best out of his player. But, you know, I've been impressed with Steve Kerr. I think he's done a good job with the team that he's got. And I need to add this. Barring injury to the top 3 players of the Warriors, either Green, Thompson, or Curry, if either one of those players gets injured, the Warriors will not win the NBA championship. But if they stay healthy, those 3 players, and Kevin Durant comes back for the playoffs, I believe that feeling that the team will have when Durant re-enters the program and gets on the court, the Warriors will feel it and say, okay, we've survived this. Now we've got the king back, because Kevin Durant is the best player in basketball. And, Jerry, let me ask you, Bob thinks that the Warriors can get through San Antonio. What are your thoughts on San Antonio? Are they the team to beat? Can the Warriors do it? And let me ask you this. Is Kevin Durant the best player in the NBA?
Okay, I like the notion about about Popovich being like Bill Belichick. There's one thing about the San Antonio Spurs all year long, and it's because the Golden State Warriors is always on fire, and with KD being on the team, and this and that. You don't even hear about San Antonio. You never do. You never have, and they've come along and won several championships. They're sitting where they probably want to be sitting right now. They should be pretty fired up about it because no one's giving them any attention. When KD went down, what happened was it forced the nucleus, the 3, Draymond, Clay, and Steph, who were on the team, have already been there. They've won championships. They were called upon to get their act into gear, and they had a couple of hiccups, but that's okay, though. They worked through it. Nick, you mentioned about the horrible shooting and the way that they played, and between Steph and Thompson, man, it was horrendous shooting, but they found Clay.
Yeah.
To me, is a really key point to this whole thing is because I like to see more consistency from him, because when he gets hot, he's hot. When he's cold, he's ice cold. He should be in Alaska, okay? But you know what? They're coming back. Curry's getting his groove back. And last night, that little conversation, or the other night, the conversation that Coach Kerr had with Steph on the sideline, talking about how important he is to the team, and it's not always about the scoring, and and he called him his son and all this kind of stuff. And the relationship that they all have with Thompson and Curry and Draymond, with the head coach, man, it's truly something special, and you can't buy that. You can't put a price on that. But I really feel about the San Antonio Spurs. They have a very powerful team. Now that KD is not going to be playing for a while, the Warriors are going to get their groove. They're going to get their groove back. They're going to get it back. And when KD does come back, hopefully they'll all be firing on all cylinders. A lot of people talk about, well, if you hadn't played in a while, you'd be out of shape, this and that. No, KD, he's not going to be out of shape. He doesn't need to be in perfect shape. He's got Clay and Steph and Draymond. He's got other people on that team that can help him out. And I'll be glad when he gets back, because during the meantime, as long as the Warriors can just ride this out, it'd be good for their confidence, because I tell you what, the Warriors got KD, but I tell you something, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they picked up a couple of players in the last couple of weeks. You get Williams, and who else did they get? They got Bogut, and then they pick up somebody else, and it's like, okay, they have a dang good basketball team over there. They've gotten better. Also. I just hope it comes down to no injuries. I hate seeing games when the best players on your team, they're hurt, okay? Because you don't get to see them at full strength. And I just hope that, KD comes back. I hope that LeBron and them, their whole team, I hope everybody is firing on all cylinders, so there won't be any excuses for anybody.
Yeah. Jerry, that's a great point there about Cleveland. And we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference here in a couple of minutes, but because I know Bob's got a good report on the Cavaliers, and he's got some opinions about them. And I wanted to address a couple of points that you mentioned, because I agree with you. When the Warriors signed Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson became the third wheel on the team. And, Steph Curry, we know he's an MVP player. He's a great player. The more we've got to see Kevin Durant, he is the best player in the NBA. I mean, Bob and I talked about him on our show Overtime with Nick and Bob, and I had said, boy, if the Warriors could get Kevin Durant, I think this is the best player in basketball. And I think Bob has kind of agreed with me that now that we get to see him play the game, he is the most talented player in the NBA. Now, when the Warriors added him, Jerry, Klay Thompson was the guy that kind of said, you know what, now what am I going to do? Am I going to get as many shots? And I believe this is perfect. This is the recipe that the Warriors need. Durant's come in. They know what he gives them. Now we need Klay and Steph, and the three players that are taking this position for Kevin right now. They need to get their game and play defense, and more importantly, they need to rebound. In that game there the other day against the Chicago Bulls, Iguodala, McCaw, and Barnes all played that position, and they all did a pretty good job. But what they're missing when Kevin's not there is the shot blocking and the rebounding. They can play defense. Well, all three of those guys are pretty good defenders, and we know Iguodala is a great player, but they need to rebound, and that's where a lot of pressure comes on Draymond Green. And this is, you guys may agree with this, and I'm going to ask Bob's opinion on this. I really believe the most valuable player on the Golden State Warriors is Draymond Green. Yes, Kevin Durant may be the greatest. He may be the greatest player in the league, and he very well could be the MVP of the league. I don't know if this injury is going to prevent him from getting that. It may, because he's not playing the full season. But if the Warriors lost Draymond Green, he is irreplaceable on the team. There's nobody that can do what Draymond can do. Bob, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's a bold
I've been
statement.
a huge Draymond Green fan since he played for Tom Izzo at Michigan State and led them to the NCAA. So I'm a huge, and I think and just speaking to Jerry's comments quickly, he talked about the big three that have been there together. You throw Iguodala in the mix, you throw Sean Livingston in the mix. Those guys have been there; they're core guys. But yeah, without Draymond, I think Draymond is going to answer the call in terms of and he always does. He's going to do whatever's necessary. If he needs to pick up his rebounding, if he needs to pick up his passing, if he needs to pick up his shot blocking, he'll do that. And I think Iguodala will do the same thing. They will rise to the occasion, step in for KD, and I don't think there's any question. I would agree 100% that Draymond Green is. I mean, we saw that what happened in Game 5 of the finals last year. You know, and that when Adam Silver and his Wizards decided to suspend Draymond for one game, that was basically the turning point of the series, in my opinion. No Draymond Green, basically that was the end of the series. So I would agree 100% that Draymond Green is by far the most valuable Warrior.
Now, Jerry, what are your thoughts on Draymond? Can he be the most valuable player of the Warriors, and Kevin Durant is the most valuable player in the NBA?
You know, Bob, I like exactly what you're saying. You need someone like Draymond. He's unique. And he's able to pull that team together when they need to be pulled together. And, you know, I've been fortunate to play on some great teams with some great ball players. I mean, play with Matt Millen. I'm talking about leaders here. You got Matt Millen, then you got Rod Martin, you know, and there's Howie and there's Lester Hayes. So I know what it's like to have somebody when they speak, you listen, and that's what Draymond does. He pulls together. By the way, he pulls no punches. I mean, he might say some things that I might have an issue with. I'm sure I would, but he's great for that basketball team. You know, he matter of fact, he goes from the coach all the way down to the players. You know, if he's got something to say, he's going to say it. But sometimes you need that. You need somebody to shock you. You know, sometimes you might need a come to Jesus meeting, and Draymond is the one that can provide that. And his value, you can't even put a number on it. You can't even talk about how valuable he is to that team. KD, you know, I believe he leads the Warriors in like 2 or 3 different categories. I mean, not only does he score, he rebounds, he blocks. He is amazing to watch. I think when Durant came to the Warriors, he looked around that locker room and he looked at who his teammates were, and he said to himself, "Thank you, Jesus, I finally made it." Because there's a different Kevin Durant. You see Kevin Durant doing a whole lot of different things, you know. I mean, when he was with OKC, you just see him scoring this and that. That's all you thought about, because him and Westbrook. But he's running up and down, blocking shots, assists, scoring. He truly is a different ball player. He seems to be really happy with the Warriors. And, you know, Bob, like you said, the other 3 guys, the 4 or 5 guys, they've stepped up. They've had to, you know. And to Nick's point about Clay feeling like he might have been the third wheel, that might be true, you know, maybe not. But you know what? Now that Durant is not there, it's time for Clay to pick it up. Clay will. He will, because the shooters, one thing about shooters, you guys, we all know this, they're going to keep shooting. I don't care how many they miss. They're going to keep shooting. And now it's time. I'm hoping that, you know, Clay and Steph get into that groove. And, you know, you don't want anybody to get hurt. You know, when I saw KD go down, I'm like, uh-oh. You know, it could have been a whole lot worse. But, you know, that old saying, next man up, well, it's taken a couple games for your Warriors to get the next man up mentality. Okay, they might have had it, but they didn't play like it. And I think they're starting to come around. They're starting to realize that, okay, now, hey, this is the same group that was here basically that was in the championship last year, and then we won the the championship the year before that. The same guys are basically here. Let's go on and get our act together and do what we got to do and be the Warriors that everybody's know that we are.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, I asked you earlier, is Kevin Durant going to get the MVP? Is this time that he's going to be off the court and not being able to play here for the last month of the season, possibly? Will that keep him from getting the MVP? Because I think we've all been watching the Warriors. We're all Warriors fans. We watch a lot of the games. I think that Kevin Durant is a little more special player than Steph Curry. Steph Curry's a great player, don't get me wrong. But after we're getting to watch Kevin Durant every night, do we all agree he's the best player in the NBA?
I agree. I agree with that. You know, the thing of it is watching him play. See, we never had a chance to watch him like this. We've seen one of the greatest shows and obviously the greatest shooting exposition out of anybody with Steph and Clay the last couple of years. Here comes Kevin Durant. All of a sudden, he's just being himself, and he's gotten into this team, and the chemistry is there, and he's showing us more of him that he didn't get a chance to show before. I think he's the most valuable player in the NBA. But when you're out, people have a tendency to forget about you.
Yeah.
When you're not playing, they do, especially when you got Westbrook up here throwing up 40 points, triple doubles all over the place, and then you got Harden, and then they're going to always be in the conversation, the king.
Yeah, Bob.
LeBron James is going to always be in that.
Jerry, you just brought up the other candidates. Obviously, Westbrook probably is the number one candidate. Bob, what's your thoughts?
Well, I would kind of echo what Jerry said in terms of sometimes when you're up, when people forget about you when all of a sudden you're not in the thing. And then you look at Westbrook, he's about to average a triple-double for a season. The last man to do that was the Big O. You're in special company when you're going to average a triple-double. Harden's leading it. If Houston's the X factor in the Western Conference, they might be the team that we're talking about instead of San Antonio. If with Harden, with Ryan Anderson, now they got Lou Williams from the Lakers to fill up the net for him too. So, and the other person is, it's hard for me to call him the king, LeBron.
Yeah.
Well, LeBron will, as Jerry said, LeBron will always be in the conversation, always, just based on his legacy or whatever you want to call it. So I think, to answer your question directly, yes, I think the missing 4 weeks of the season will be very detrimental to Kevin Durant's opportunity to win the MVP. But I will echo that. But I will also close by saying, and echoing Jerry's comments as well, I did not know what a special player Kevin Durant was until I got to see him on a regular basis. At OKC, I saw him. I saw him on TV a couple times a year. When you watch him on a regular basis, he is a special player. And I would agree with Jerry in his point that he seems to have just opened up his whole game once he got here. He's running the court, he's throwing it down, he's blocking. He block it at one end, throw it down at the other. He just seemed to be in a good mix. Kind of the it factor was working very well for Kevin Durant. So the other thing that I hope he's able to come back. We saw this last year with Steph when he got hurt in the playoffs. When he came back, he wasn't the same player, and I'm hoping that's not going to be the case with Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Bob, I like to refer to Jerry, and Jerry, I hope you don't mind this, but Jerry's a freak. Okay, we know that Jerry can do things that just the average person can't do. I mean, runs. Hey, Jerry's got records at Cardinal Newman right now for running the 100-yard dash, the 200-yard dash, the high jump, the long jump. I mean, I think he pulls out the bleachers when he was there and pushed them in, swept up the floor. But Durant's a freak himself, okay? He's a freak. I mean, 6'11", 7 foot tall, the things that he can do on a basketball court. There's just not many guys that are that size that can do it. But, the NBA really has put a bad schedule for the Golden State Warriors. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity here to look what's going on here the next couple of weeks, but the Warriors have to play next Saturday against San Antonio, and it's the end of an 8-game road trip. I mean, in the middle of the 8-game road trip, they got to fly back and play one game and then fly back east again. So it's going to be pretty tough to hold that 2-game lead over the San Antonio Spurs. But and here's even worse, guys. Okay, next Saturday they're going to play San Antonio. I'm sure we're all going to enjoy watching the San Antonio beat the Warriors in that game because they're going to be a huge favorite. It's the end of that road trip. But then a couple weeks later, on a Wednesday, March 29th, the Warriors are going to play San Antonio, right? Again, for the second time in San Antonio. But the night before, they got to play the Houston Rockets in Houston. They're the two teams right there that if they're going to, anybody's going to knock off the Warriors and take over the number one seed, it's going to be those two teams. So, it's a tough schedule for the Warriors. But again, I like what Jerry said about the nucleus of this team. This team now has got to come together and say, you know what, if we can just get through this regular season, we're going to get the best player in the NBA back, and we're going to be ready to roll. And the confidence of all the players is just going to be so high when they see KD walk on that court and say, hey, boys, let's go win that championship that I came here to do. That's why KD came here. He came to the Golden State Warriors knowing that this was the team that had the best opportunity for him to win an NBA championship, and he's going to be fired up. I don't believe, Bob, they're going to put him on the court like they may have did to Steph Curry last year when they brought him back maybe a little early. I think he's going to be ready to go. There's no reason to hurry it because there's no team really, and you guys mentioned how well the Warriors shoot. In a series, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7, yeah, the Warriors might have one off game. But their shooters with Curry, Thompson, and Durant, 2 out of the 3 guys are shooting the ball well. That's plenty. And if one guy is, we've seen Steph Curry score 40. We saw Klay Thompson. What did he score? 60 points in a game? And Durant could do it too, So the Warriors are just so exciting and so fun to watch. But the NBA schedule is going to test them. And I don't understand why the NBA has to play back-to-back games. I just don't. I think they need to look at this in the future. Back-to-back games is tough on players. Jerry, you were a pro player, and you had to go through a lot of this. Once a week you would play a game, and now they have Thursday night football, Jerry. Did you have to play Thursday night footballs when you were playing, Jerry?
Nick, I was in the league when the Thursday night football first started. It was against the San Diego Chargers. It was exciting because it was something new. It was like, oh wow, we ain't playing on Monday night when the whole world's watching. Shoot, now they're going to watch us on Thursday. Well, now that we realize that, it's not it's great for business, and that's what it's about, is the business. It's horrible for the athlete and for the ball player, for your body. There's no time to recuperate. It's just, injuries pop up all over the place. And the whole thing about the Warriors, when you were breaking down the Warriors' schedule, it just reminded me of how the NFL treat the Raiders, man. The Raiders are flown all over. They got the same type of thing sometimes, man. And it's a shame. It's difficult. It's not even fair. And, basketball is one of those sports. I mean, these guys, they run. They're like great wide receivers and running backs just flying, and defensive backs flying up and down the court, jumping, leaping, slam dunking, stopping, turning, all this kind of stuff. And that's a lot of wear and tear. I don't know how they go back-to-back. And then after a back-to-back, they got to fly across country 3,000, 4,000 miles and play someplace else. And I take my hat off to them. It's a very grueling schedule. And the Warriors, yeah, they've been dealt. I felt they've been dealt a dirty hand, but that's okay though. There's nothing better than proving somebody wrong. Because they knew what they were doing when they were scheduling the Golden State Warriors like that. So now it's the Warriors' attitude is us against the world. That's cool. And one of the things about this season is that they're not. There's not all this pressure on winning how many games. It's not about another streak. It's about being healthy going into the playoffs. That's the most important thing. And like you said, Steph came back, and he just wasn't the same. He was not the same. And KD's situation, they don't have to rush him back. He doesn't have to get back because you were talking about confidence, KD's confidence. I'm looking at the confidence of the players that are there right now. KD's gone, but Klay and Steph and Draymond and Livingston, everybody now, they're starting to get their confidence back because, they know that, hey, man, we can do this without KD. We've done it before. It's just, hey, let's just get this groove going. Let's get this rhythm going. And KD, he has a great deal of confidence, but I tell you what, I think that the confidence of the other ball players on the team is going to start to build because they're looking at it and saying, wow, man, we can roll through this even without Kevin Durant. We know he's coming back, and that's even more of a plus. So it's time for everybody else to step up their game, and I just can't wait to see this whole thing just play out.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, I think you know as well as I do, and everybody, all professional athletes are all very good. A lot of it has to do with their confidence and their psyche and how they're feeling about themselves and their team. And I'm going to throw this over to the P of I because I'll tell you this, Jerry. On Overtime with Nick and Bob, we followed the Raiders. We'd come on after those games, and the P of I was just livid about how many times the Raiders had to go back east. What was it? How many games? What was it, the schedule there, P of I?
We had four. We had four East Coast games out of our first 7 or something very close to that.
Yeah.
And then we play home games in Mexico City now. So we're playing another home game in Mexico City next year. So against the Patriots.
Jerry, I can tell you, Bob is a Raider diehard fan. He knows everything about the Raiders. He's been studying that team, and he's a fantastic co-host when we're talking about the Oakland Raiders. He knows every player on the team, and we would talk a lot about the Raiders' schedule, and it was just, like you said, they stick it to the Raiders, okay? And I think a lot of it had to do with Al Davis, right? Al Davis was kind of stirred the pot a little bit there, didn't he, Jerry?
They're still trying to get Al, and he's gone, man. That's the whole thing. They're still trying to create rules, and Al ain't got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, well, hey, unfortunately his son has the last name Davis, okay? So, hey, Bob, when we're looking forward here now, we know the Warriors are going to win this Western Conference. I feel confident about it. I hope you guys do it, confident about it. And now Jerry brought up the Cleveland Cavaliers, okay? And the Cavaliers went out and they got Andrew Bogut. And when Bogut became a free agent there a couple weeks back, Bob, I called you and said, would the Warriors be good? Would it be better off for the Warriors to try to sign Andrew Bogut and not allow him to go to the Cleveland Cavaliers, knowing that Bogut really wants to stick it to the Warriors? I don't think he was real happy with how things went down here when he was released or traded. And I really liked Andrew Bogut. The problem was he couldn't stay healthy. But now he's surfaced with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I guarantee you he wants to get into the NBA Finals, and he wants to beat the Golden State Warriors. And the Cavaliers, they went out, they signed Darren Williams. What's your thoughts now on the Cavaliers, Bob? Because, as I felt a little while back that maybe Boston Celtics were going to be the team that might just upend the Cleveland Cavaliers and keep them from getting to the finals. But with these two signings, Bogut and Darren Williams, I'm kind of thinking now that Cleveland's going to be the team that's going to come out of that Eastern Conference.
In a strange twist of fate, Bogut got hurt tonight in his first game with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the game against the Miami Heat.
What?
He went and ran out. He got helped off. He had to get helped off the court.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, there's the P of I for you, Jerry. Okay, the guy's
I know it. I'm
one step ahead of us right there. Well, Bob, so now are you back on the Boston Celtics? Possible.
Oh no, we'll talk about the Cavaliers real quick, and then I'll tell you the other team that I like in the Eastern Conference. So we'll talk about. So first of all, they got Derek Williams. About 3 weeks ago, they signed Derek Williams to a 10-day contract. Derek Williams was the number 2 overall pick out of Arizona a couple years ago for the Heat. They signed him to back-to-back 10-day contracts. They actually did not sign him for the whole season. As you pointed out, they got Darren Williams, and now they have Andrew Bogut. They also have 2 players that are injured. One of them is J.R. Smith. One of them is Kevin Love. Both of those players are out for right now. So let's talk quickly about Darren Williams. Darren Williams, 32 years old, been around the league for a long time, former All-Star, a pretty good offensive presence. So I believe he'll help them on the offensive side of the court. He'll be able to give Kyrie a little more time off. LeBron takes games off now, which I don't even understand that. Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, they never took games off, but whatever. That was a different era. So I think he'll help him. He'll take minutes away from LeBron. He'll take minutes away from Kyrie. He'll help on the offensive end. I see him as the downside I see from him is the same thing that San Antonio did last year when they went and got Andre Miller from Denver late in the season, 34 years old, figured out, 17-year veteran guy. He's going to help us out. On the defensive end, he was a huge liability. Okay, the Warriors just schooled him. Clay went by him. Steph went by him. He was too old. So I see the same thing with Darren Williams. I think Darren Williams on the defensive side of the court will be a huge liability just because of his age, and he was not really that good of a defensive player anyway. Talking about Bogut quickly, if Bogut does come back, Bogut's kind of the opposite. Bogut's going to give you some defense, give you some interior defense, maybe block a couple shots for you, but he's not going to be a factor on the offense. I think what they're going to need from him is to give Tristan Thompson a little bit of rest, some time off to get ready for the postseason because you're not going to get any points out of Bogut. And the Cleveland doesn't really run plays for their center. I mean, Tristan Thompson gets the majority of his points on putbacks, offensive rebounds, cushion stuff. So I would say, depending on what happens with Bogut now, as I said, he got helped off the court. So who knows? The point you made right before we went to my segment was his glass. He's made of glass. He's very injury prone. So but the team that I really have my eye on would be the Toronto Raptors. I think they made some huge moves right there at the trading deadline. They went to Orlando. They got Serge Ibaka. They went and got P.J. Tucker from Phoenix. DeMar DeRozan is just an outstanding young player, putting up 30 a night. Dwayne Casey, their coach, just a great defensive mind. He was actually the defensive mind behind the Mavs championship in 2011. So you put Dwayne Casey, defensive skills, defensive acumen. They got Kyrie Irving hurt now. He will come back. Corey Joseph is doing a great job stepping in for Kyrie Irving right now. So I look for the Toronto Raptors, if they can't, to at least push Cleveland to 7 games and maybe get to the finals against somebody else, because I really like the moves they made here late in the season to kind of make a big push towards the playoffs. So that's kind of how I see the Eastern Conference.
Well, Bob, I wasn't even really thinking much about Toronto, but as you bring them up, they do have a very good record. I like Boston a little better than Toronto in that conference, but again, I still think Cleveland is the team to beat. And Jerry, I'm a little worried about Cleveland for one reason. They've kind of had some success against the Warriors here in the last year, starting in the NBA Finals when they beat them 3 in a row. That was quite an eye-opener for Golden State Warriors fans. When you were up 3-1, you need one win to win the NBA championship, and you get 3 losses in a row, and then they lost a game earlier in the season. Now, the Warriors did win a big game recently, and I thought it was important that the Warriors won that game by at least double figures, and the Warriors just put one on Cleveland. But that's their only win in the last, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 games against the Cavaliers. And obviously the Cavaliers, Jerry, I believe, thought that they needed to improve their team. That's why they were so desperately shopping for some other players to add to the team. They weren't feeling like the Warriors are. The Warriors added, Barnes to take the place of KD, and I'm not sure that Barnes is going to be a long-term addition for the Warriors, but he might give them some defense right now. But what's your thoughts on the Eastern Conference? Is Cleveland the team to beat, or do you agree with Bob that the Toronto Raptors may be the team, Jerry?
I was listening to the PI, and I'm like, you know what? That's a real good point. Toronto is very interesting, but Cleveland to me, to touch on that, to come back from down 3-1 and go ahead and win, to beat the Warriors last year to win the championship, there's an advantage there. There's an advantage if you play on the Cleveland Cavaliers. There's something, because that's never happened before, and the way it went down. One thing about that series back there last year, I remember when, I don't know who it was on the Warriors, or someone had made a comment about LeBron, and it would question something, either toughness or something about him. And all of a sudden, I remember LeBron looking in the camera, and he had this look on his face like, really? Okay. And it did, and also with Draymond Green, not being able to play, that also helped Cleveland too. But there's something about it. They took it when you come back from down 3-1 and you win, and that does a great deal for your confidence. Now, during the offseason, hey man, they're still the defending champions. They've had some ups and some downs. The Warriors have had some ups and some downs. There's an injury thing here. Let me say this before I forget. The Warriors, it's important to me, I believe, until this playoff series started, even during the playoff series, you got to do something about turnovers. You can't be turning. I mean, it's great to see some nice, sweet passes behind the back, underneath here, around the Oracle building and all that kind of stuff, but it leads to turnovers. And right now, when you're not clicking on all cylinders, you need to make the passes, you guys. I know some of them did a little sketchy to me, but the turnovers is going to be really big right here, because what happens with turnovers is just like momentum changes, just like in football. I mean, you see that happen all the time. So somebody either turns the ball over, somebody makes an interception, or returns a kick for something like that, and the momentum starts to change. Well, when you start turning the ball over, bad things can happen to you. The Warriors just play smart ball. Just play smart ball, and that'll get them through. I really, truly believe that in my heart, I'd love to see the Warriors win again. It's going to be a great battle between Cleveland. This is my picks, Cleveland and Golden State, because when you look at the two teams, in my opinion, I mean, you got the best players in the game as a group on both sides of those teams.
Yeah.
And I mean, hey, you know, and like I said, when you get KD on your team, so LeBron and them, they were like, okay, we got to do something. You got to do something. And they made a couple additions, like Bob said, you got people that are hurt that's going to be coming back for them, just like the Warriors. KD's going to be coming back, and so I think they're all going to run together here. Everybody's going to be healthy, and it just depends on, in my opinion, who just doesn't turn the ball over so much. I mean, I know it sounds like football, turn the ball over. No, they turn the ball over quite a bit. You can't be make the sure pass. You know, don't try to sneak with them. Let's just go in and get the ball to the person who needs to get the ball to, and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Turnovers, just let the air out of it.
Jerry, you want to get a shot up every time down the court.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really important in basketball, and I think we've all watched the Warriors. We know that's their Achilles heel, that they have sometimes games where they have 15, 20 turnovers, and that's not a recipe for a victory, okay? And they've overcome that a lot of times because they're great shooters and they shoot the three-pointers so well. But, Bob, do you think that Cleveland, even though they might be not quite as talented as the Warriors, do you think that mental edge for the Cavaliers could be a problem for the Warriors?
Well, speaking to the turnover issue, just quickly, turnovers are missed opportunities. When you turn the ball over on offense, you missed an opportunity to score, and you gave them another chance to score. So we'll close it with that. I believe that there may be a certain kind of a psyche advantage but I think, and you spoke to this earlier. You know, there was a game earlier this season where basically the Golden State came down and stepped on their neck. So I think that Golden State is basically trying to fight that psyche, that image that the Cavaliers have something over them or something like that. So I would have to agree with Jerry in terms of when the two Titans do meet, it should be an epic battle. And once again, turnovers were probably going to be a huge part of anybody's success in anything. So, but I think the Warriors are trying to step above this alleged edge that Cleveland has because they beat them 3 straight in the finals, because they beat them earlier in the year. I think Golden State, and I mean it'll play itself out in the playoffs, but I think that the Warriors will be able to overcome it. The other thing I think is when we talked about Popovich, Kerr's a great coach, and I think he's been there, he's done that, he's been to the finals as a player, he's been to the finals as a coach. We can't say the same for Tyronn Lue. He was able, actually, he came into the half the year last year after they fired Blatt, and he was able to get him to the finals. He was able to get him a win. So that looks good on his resume. Let's see if he can do it for a whole season.
Yeah.
And I'll end with those comments.
Yeah. Well, Bob, I'm going to kind of start rooting for Toronto. Now that you said that you think the Raptors are a legitimate team, I'm going to start rooting for Toronto a little bit more because the other
team over there that you have to look at is Washington with John Wall and Bradley Beal. They have 2 of the best guards in basketball.
Well, I got a good look at I got a good look at Washington the other night when that's the game that Durant got.
Good of a look.
Yeah, Durant got injured in that game, and I could not believe the center there, Marsan Gurdot, just took Zaza, threw him down, and the ref didn't even call anything. Okay, threw him right down on the ground, and you're like, come on, everybody's seen that play so many times because that's the play Kevin got injured on, and you're like, that's not a foul? I mean, come on, refs, what are you looking at? But anyway, I think I might become a Raptors fan a little bit. I just don't want to see Cleveland again. One way or another, I don't want to see them, and hoping the Warriors don't have to play them. But, hey, guys, I want to leave this podcast with a little bit of a lighter note. And I don't know if it's lighter, but it's something that's really been bugging me, okay? And I watched the TNT there, and they got Shaq, and they got Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith. And for some reason, Shaquille O'Neal keeps dishing on JaVale McGee. And I don't know why he's picking on JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee has done a fantastic job for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, I think he's well exceeded whatever we thought they would get out of him. And to tell you the truth, fellas, I really enjoy watching him play. When he gets on the court there, he's very athletic. He can jump. He blocks shots. he doesn't look like his age when he's out there. And I just wondered, Bob, I'm going to start with you. What is the deal with Shaq picking on JaVale McGee? Do you know anything about that story? What's going on there?
Well, Shaq has a little a piece, and it's a little segment in that thing, and I can't remember exactly the name, but basically, it's basically making fun of players. You only get on that if you don't do very well. If you make a stupid play, fall down, do something stuff like that. So apparently JaVale McGee, Shaq's found enough of these little niblets of JaVale McGee that he continues to highlight him. And the thing about Shaq likes to dish it out, but Shaq does not like to take it. So once JaVale McGee fired back, that kind of started a war with Shaq, and I think it's a petty little thing myself. And I mean, I guess Shaq's doing what he's getting paid for, if that's really what he's getting paid for, is to bag on people. But it's a petty little thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Jerry, are you aware of this?
I do. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm aware of it. Shaq the Fool. Yeah, Shaq the Fool. That's Shaq's segment that he's been doing for a long time. Bob, you said something that's so interesting. I love what you said. I'm glad you brought this up. Shaq can dish it out, but he cannot take criticism at all. I've seen him on that set. You can see his face change colors. I know you got to look real hard to see that happen. But anyway, his expression changes sometimes when Charles will get on him or say something about him. He gets kind of sensitive. But, McGee, man, you know what? I got to hand it to him. He's played a lot better than I've ever seen him play before. I mean, he is productive. Unfortunately, he's giving Shaq all this material because I've seen some of the spots that Shaq put on there of him, and nobody, this is not photo bombing. No one is editing anything. These things are actually happening, and then they're kind of funny. But Shaq is going to keep running with that because it'll make everybody laugh. Everybody on the sets laughs, this and that. And I'm glad McGee fired back. His mother got involved. I guess both moms, his mom, Shaq's mom, everybody got involved in it. But you know what? I'm proud of McGee for standing up and saying, man, hey, enough's enough. But the bottom line is, stop giving me material to keep putting you on this show, because if Shaq gets some more material on him, he will do that.
Yeah.
And it's TV. Those guys over there, Charles says whatever he wants to say. They all do, and Shaq is having a little fun with it. And I'm like this. If I don't want to be part of that segment, I don't need to do anything to be to find myself on that show.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, I was really proud of Kevin Durant. I think it was Kevin Durant, that stepped up and said, hey, Shaq, what? The guy's doing everything he could do. You shouldn't be talking so much. You were like the worst free throw shooter in NBA history. Was it KD, Bob, that took his back there?
KD is the first guy that stepped up, and then ultimately I believe that my understanding is that the Warriors actually reached out to TNT and said, hey, can you guys back off a little bit? Which a lot of guys like Stephen A. Smith and some other guys ran with, like, wah. But, I think it shows that the Warriors care about their players. And, we talked about JaVale McGee at the beginning. When they signed JaVale McGee, I told you JaVale McGee will make an impact and will make this roster. And I know you believe, and I know you remember that. Because you looked at me like, what, JaVale McGee? I just figured this was going to be his last chance to do that. And he's proven, as I think the three of us agree, he's played well above expectation. So, but getting back to Jerry's point, you're right. If you want to get off the spotlight, stop doing stuff, okay?
Yeah, Bob, listen.
And you know what?
Go ahead, Jerry.
Excuse me. Hey, Bob, you said something that's really interesting, and it just goes to show you the class of the Golden State Warriors front office and ownership, man, and coaching staff. When, as a ball player, if you have a teammate of yours stand up for you, that's unbelievable. But then you have the entire organization, like you said, they call TNT and whatever. That goes a long ways, man. You can't buy that kind of stuff, you guys. You can't buy that. You talk about camaraderie. That's the stuff that I miss about the game that I don't play anymore. It's things like that. Is when, even though it's a big multi-billion-dollar business, the Warriors actually care about each other and they care about the players. That right there is something that's going to drive them to another championship. It's going to take them where they're going to go. And I'm glad you brought that up because, I do remember the Warriors that called TNT and then KD did step up. And that goes a long way, man, because there's nothing like being in that locker room. And when you know that your teammates got your back, that's one thing. But when the entire organization has your back, that's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
You don't find that happening when the whole
I'll
organization.
just add this,
is.
Jerry. I will add this to talking about the Warriors in general, their whole organization. Okay, we all know that there was a time that they were talking about signing Jose Calderon. And so they reached out to Jose Calderon. Jose Calderon actually negotiated a buyout with the Lakers. He was making about $800,000 a year. He was going to come play for the Warriors for $415,000. Well, then the KD situation came down. Turns out they really didn't need Jose Calderon. They reached out. They signed Matt Barnes. But what they actually did was they signed Jose Calderon for 80 minutes. He was actually a Warrior for 80 minutes. They paid him $415,000, and then they released him, just based on gentleman's agreement. We had a handshake agreement that you were going to come here and make $415,000. You know what? You're going to come here and make $415,000 in 80 minutes. And that's the kind of organization that the Warriors are. And you know, getting back to your point, when you are behind your whole organization like that, I mean, that just speaks volumes to your whole mentality of your organization.
No, it's not a bad.
And you know what, Bob?
It's not
Bob,
a bad
one more
hourly
thing.
rate there, is it? That's not a bad hourly rate
No,
there,
it's
is
not.
it, boys? Huh? Jerry, what would you
Pretty good
want?
hourly wage.
Yeah, I just want to add something to that. You know, back in the day, because, you know, I went to UCLA, so I've always been a Warriors fan, but I'm in L.A., and I've been a Lakers fan too. And people used to want to go to the Lakers all the time. They wanted to go. People used to want to be part of the Raiders, and that's back too. You know what I mean? They want to be part of that because they've heard so much and seen so much about those great organizations. That's what's happening with the Warriors. People want to come play there. Not because they're just winners, but it's because the relationships that the guys have with each other and the things that the ownership and front office and people that work that they do for you. You want to be in a place like that. We're all athletes. They're all getting paid a lot of money. So what? You know, money's one thing. But when you can actually feel like you're part of something special, you can't put a price on that. And that's what the Warriors are doing. And that's why KD came. That's one of the reasons he came there. He knew he could say, thank you, Jesus, I finally made it.
Yeah, very good, Jerry. I agree with that. You know, it's a great
I
organization.
think we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah, it's a great organization, the Golden State Warriors, and they're circling the wagons right now. Jerry mentioned it earlier, and Bob, you did too. This is where your team has to become a team. You got one man down, one man, next man up. The Warriors, I think we agree with this. Barring injury to Draymond, Clay, or Steph, if KD comes back, even if the Warriors are not the number one seed, the Warriors are going to be in good shape to go ahead and win the NBA championship. Now, I'm hoping it doesn't have to go through Cleveland, but if it does, I would really like to see the Warriors take down Cleveland this year after what happened last year. But, hey, fellas, listen, you did a great job. Everybody did their homework. You came on to the 10th inning here, brought it to the show. Jerry Robinson, I want to wish your daughter Maya good luck in the state basketball playoffs here for Cardinal Newman. The P of I, the plethora of information. I want to make sure when you brought up JaVale McGee, first I thought, what's he talking about? But then I remembered, you're the P of I. You're the P of I. You've got opinions that are formed through all of your homework. And again, you're correct. Hey, fellas, thank you so much for joining us here in the Lethal Weapon 2 studio here with my producer, David Perkins. And we will be back soon here on the 10th inning after I get my new knee, fellas. Okay, so thanks again.